Kia ora, talofa, namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Cache Variety Show, where we, from the Niche Cache, serve up some Aotearoa sporting funk from the past few days. Obviously, we love Aotearoa and we love Aotearoa sport, and there's always shit happening. So we're always here to spin a yarn. And if you do like a bit of cricket, we came to the conclusion that Kane Williamson is really fantastic as a leader of Aotearoa cricket and a fantastic batter on our weekly Patreon cricket podcast. Got a big tour of England coming up. So we're just always chatting about Aotearoa cricket on the Patreon feed, patreon.com/our niche cache. It is the best way to support the niche cache and all our content. And then there's also an extra cricket podcast every week as well. Big up to the email newsletter via Substack, thenichecache.substack.com. We send that out every Monday and Friday evening with just a whole lot of Aotearoa sporting notes. Mondays are fresh off the weekend. Fridays are previewing the weekend. That's all you need. Straight to your email. All the Niche Cache content is part of that. All the links to our yarns and all our podcasts. So if you're off social media, you can hit that up. Check your email every Monday and Friday evening, and it's all there. Otherwise, we're always writing about Aotearoa sports via our website, theniche-cache.com. Did some Kiwi NRL spotlights on Hayes Perham, Matthew Tomoko. The Wildcard has done a big old debrief about Shea Illy, as well as the New Zealand Breakers. I'll imagine he'll have some Stephen Adams PTSD yarns as well coming up over the next few days, as well as
Wellington Phoenix PTSD. Yep, that too.
It's all coming to an end, but it's part of the sporting cycle. So those are where the deep dives are. That's where the big yarns are, theniche-cache.com. This is a podcast, though. And all our podcast wildcards start with a dose of mindfulness, where we just like to share some thoughts and ideas to concentrate our energies and focus on as we move forward in this funky old thing called life.
Yeah, this is from a fella I'm not actually familiar with, but I like the quote. Is by Rabbi Rami Shapiro, who says, "Most of the hurts we experience are not meant for us. They are byproducts of the suffering others are feeling. The truth is that most of the pain and suffering we feel isn't directed at us at all."
Beautiful. Splendid, lovely. Nurture yourself, love yourself, and forgive others. Just have a bit of empathy for others as well. So that's a beautiful note, just for everyone to release their, the woes placed upon them. And we'll keep that in mind as we venture forward throughout this variety show. And until our next dose of mindfulness wildcard on the epic Thursday Nichecast podcast, we start the variety show after the mindfulness, which has just got me in a very zen little zone here, wildcard, which might come to an end when I deliver my take to start off the sporting segment of the variety show. But I'm curious, given your PTSD over the last few days from Stephen Adams, from the Wellington Phoenix, you don't care about the Warriors, so that was probably lucky, although the Dragons did have a narrow loss to the Gold Coast Titans. Maybe Manchester United suck as well. Maybe the rest of your sporting beat sucks as well. I don't know, but I'm curious what you're going to start this show off, because it's been a weird old couple of days for some of your sporting topics.
Yeah, which puts old Rabbi Rami's quote there in another context as well, doesn't it? About like experiencing the suffering of others. It's like, yeah, we watch sports, bro. It's part of the experience, mate. Yeah, so but I'm coming in strong with a hot take here about the Wellington Phoenix. Even though they lost in their elimination finals game, went down 1-0 to Western United, very close game. Like it was not a game in which they were dominated by any means. They just, like, a couple moments of quality went the way of the other team, and that's, fine margins. That's how elimination games go. But here's my take. I think that the Wellington Phoenix have the potential to make not just the finals again next season, but a deep finals run. I'll stop short of saying like contender status, but I think they have the potential to make a deep finals run next season if they can stick the recruitment side of things in this coming off season. Like that's the one little asterisk, because if you think about it, like next season they will have proper home games. They won't be stuck in Australia. That at least they shouldn't be. We're all pretty like optimistic that'll be the case. They shouldn't have to deal with like COVID postponements, and then the result of that as well being these quick turnaround games, trying to play catch-up matches in the midweek at the end of the season, running your legs down at the time where you want to be preparing for those finals. The young dudes in the squad are all going to be that much more experienced. They should have more luck with injuries. You can't really have less luck with injuries than what they just had. But Fakatela is still under contract for one more season, so that shouldn't be a problem. All of which points towards, a much better campaign next time than the one that they just had. And the one that they just had was where they still managed to come sixth and only lost 1-0 in an elimination final. So pretty decent there. There was a point, this is where I come to the recruitment side of things, a big asterisk. There was a point in the Western United match where the camera cuts to the bench with probably like 20 odd minutes to go. And Ufotele standing there and just looking a little bit forlorn as he tries to figure out a way back into the game. And behind him, sitting all in a row, David Ball, Gael Sandoval, and Gary Hooper. So the three attacking imports that the team has sitting on the bench, 20 minutes to go, you're chasing a goal to get back into a finals game. Like all three of those guys are good enough to influence a match like that, but Ball was playing hurt. Hooper's just been unfit the whole time. He's been at the Phoenix. Sandoval just wasn't able to have an influence on that game the way he has in others. So I'm not saying there aren't valid reasons why they're all on the bench. I'm just like, in fact, I actually kind of tend to agree. Like, I think that was the right thing that Tellai did. And they were actually more creative after those guys went off as well. Like their best chances came later on. However, I don't know that it's a great sign when your three imports are sitting on the bench at that time. So next season, like all should be fit and healthy. Hopefully that won't be a problem. Hooper won't be back. That's already confirmed. Sandoval, I'd say, is doubtful, and I would guess at this point most likely not to be back. Probably lose Reno Piscopo and Joshua Soteria too. I would suspect Piscopo might be a chance. Soteria sounds like it's going to Newcastle. There's still 15 contracted players for next season, though. So they've got a strong core. Like they've got a big foundation in order to be able to build from. A lot of continuity, the kind of continuity they haven't really had in past years. But they do kind of have to rebuild that attack. So that's the asterisk. Like, can they do that? Can they get the right kind of players in, locals and imports, guys who can influence games, guys who will be a factor in the finals game at this stage next season? If they can, that's what'll define what their ceiling is next season. And if they get it right, I think this is a team that could go a long way.
Sophie Devine hits the ball a long way.
She does.
And she is also on a pretty emphatic run. Most recently, Sophie Devine won the Fairbreaks T20 Invitational. All the best T20 or female cricketers from around the world took part in this tournament. They were chucked into various teams. Sophie Devine, Katie Martin, Susie Bates led the Kiwis. Also shout out to Marina Lamplow, Hong Kong international, and Otago Sparks player. But this is about Sophie Devine and her standing as the best T20 cricketer in the world, definitely the best Aotearoa female cricketer right now. In the final, she hit 51 with a strike rate of 145.7. She was the only player to hit 3 sixes in the final. And this caps off a season of Sophie Devine in which she won the Women's Big Bash League with Perth Scorchers as captain. She won the Super Smash with Wellington. She only played 4 games because she was busy winning a WBBL championship, came back for Wellington and dominated in the Super Smash, helped Wellington seal the Super Smash. Then she was the Aotearoa White Ferns best player in the Home World Cup and took her T20 batting into one-day mode, which hadn't been the case previously. And she just ground out innings throughout that World Cup to finish as the best White Ferns player. Now she's won the Fairbreaks T20 Invitational Tournament. So Sophie Devine has won her last 3 T20 tournaments, as well as being the best player for the Aotearoa White Ferns at a home World Cup. And that makes Sophie Devine absolutely tremendous. So shout out Sophie Devine and shout out to the Fairbreaks T20 Invitational as well. Let's drop a stat here, wildcard. Steven Adams. He is good at basketball. Memphis Grizzlies weren't quite good enough. What stat are you going to share with us about Steven Adams?
Yeah, one more time with feeling on the Steve-O stats. As last one for the season, I would imagine, unless we get some of them Duck Master stats rolling in, but that's another story. Check the email for that one on Substack. This is just about the resurgence that he had in the second round, because obviously first round guarded by Karl-Anthony Towns and guarding Karl-Anthony Towns didn't quite work for him. It was a matchup that not just Steven Adams, but Memphis in general had struggled with through the season, and things had to be what they had to be. He got benched, but there were people at that time, not you or I, but there were people out there who were claiming that Steven Adams would not be playable in any playoff series after his benching against Minnesota. That it wasn't just a bad matchup, but that his type of player, that kind of old-fashioned center, simply can't handle postseason basketball in 2022. Now, those people were wrong from the start, but it was nice to get a proper emphatic refutation from the man himself there, because Steven Adams, he played 83 minutes in the Golden State Warriors series, during which he grabbed 40 total rebounds for a game that in the 3 games that he didn't start, while he was recovering from COVID at the beginning of it, they were, out-rebounded in all of them. The best rebounding team in the league, out-rebounded in the 3 games he didn't play. He comes back in, grabs a rebound every couple minutes. In those 83 minutes that he played, the Grizzlies were a plus 32 on the court. Remember, they lost 2 of those starts as well, so that puts it into even more of a stark contrast. His offensive rating was 118, which I think was second best on the Grizzlies team. His defensive rating was, amongst players that played, decent minutes anyway, his defensive rating was a team best 103, so a plus 15 net rating. In fact, that 103 defensive rating was actually the best in the entire series, including Golden State Warriors players as well, which, laughs in the face of the idea that the Dubs were just going to torch him in the pick and roll and he wouldn't be able to stay on the court. It's like, well, actually, he was the best defensive player in the entire series based on that. Also had 11 assists, and had he played a full part in that series, probably would have been third on the assist tallies for his team, behind the 2 point guards, Ja Morant and Tyus Jones. Or how about a team high 16 screen assists for 40 points across those 83 minutes, which was only one short of Draymond Green, who played more than twice the total minutes in that series than Adams did. Coach Taylor Jenkins, asked afterwards the obvious question that you would ask about whether he's, been sitting back thinking about the what ifs of, had Ja Morant not got injured when he did, had he been able to play the full series, what might have gone on, like what might have been different. Fair play, but at the same time, how about the what ifs of if Steven Adams hadn't got sick at the start of the series and had been available for all 6 games, might well have been 7 games if that had been the case. Because he was superb, and I would say that he has surely put to bed any worries about his playoff viability down the line.
My statistic comes after Lydia Ko had a tied 12th finish at the Founders Cup LPGA tournament over the weekend, and it's only one stat. It's all we need. Numero tahi is where Lydia Ko is ranked for putting. She is the best putter on the LPGA Tour. She has the lowest putting average, 28.25, and this is her best since at least 2020, and if not beyond. So Lydia Ko is the best putter on the LPGA Tour right now. There are some other aspects that are kind of hindering her game, most notably greens in regulation and her work off the tee, but Lydia Ko is the best putter on the LPGA Tour, ranked first in putting average after her 12 tied, whichever way you want to say that, finish at the Founders Cup over the weekend. Deep in the Mangroves wildcard, I'd actually like to see Steven Adams try a couple of sports. Like we've talked about Steven Adams maybe playing rugby. I would mind a bit of Steven Adams playing for the All Whites. He's got to play for the Tall Blacks first. Yeah. Like, how about we get that first? But I don't know. For some reason, I just had the vision of Steven Adams, up front, Chris Wood, some good old Kiwi football, bang it up to the strikers, Steven Adams in the box, headed in, Aquaman, whatever the fuck, I don't know, spinning a yarn here. But deep in the Mangroves wildcard, you're talking about the All Whites.
I'm just wondering what position he would play in football. Because as you said that, I thought, he'd be a good goalkeeper, big body, good hands. But then also I thought, oh, but chuck him with Chris Wood up front. You got the dual target man thing. And he actually, like, if you see him sometimes, loose ball under the hoop or something, whistle goes, timeout or whatever. He's been known to like flick that ball up on his heel and do a couple footy juggles. He's done. I've seen that in video clips from him before. So, however, he didn't make the all-white squad for the Costa Rica playoff series. Sure, he'll be disappointed by that, but didn't quite get there. However, they always have named that squad. A 26-man group will be cut to 23 for the match itself, the final one-legged World Cup qualifying playoff against Costa Rica in a little under a month's time, about 3 weeks. I think it's the 4 weeks. I think it's the 14th of June, I believe, is the date of it. And yeah, to decide the 32nd and final spot of who will qualify for the World Cup in Qatar later on in the year. So the big news here, no Sarpreet Singh. Just got a sneaky bout of pelvic bone inflammation, which from what I've heard sounds as painful as that name also sounds. That's kept him out of action since about February. So it's not really a surprise. It's disappointing, but it's not really a surprise when you think of how long he's been out for. Obviously, it's been an extended recovery thing. Ryan Thomas already ruled out as he continues what has been a pretty slow recovery from knee surgery late last year. However, all the other big names are there, as you would expect, including Michael Boxall, Marco Rojas, both back in contention after missing the Oceania qualifiers. This squad is a major contrast to what we'll see from Costa Rica in terms of experience, because their Costa Rica team is an older squad. A lot of them are in their 30s, many of them in their mid-30s. Quite a few of them have played at not just a World Cup, but multiple World Cups, including when they made the quarterfinals in 2014, I think it was. They have several Centurions in their squad, whereas the All Whites have just named a squad of 26 in which only 10 guys have more than 10 caps. So massive difference in terms of experience. No real like major surprise selections or like bolters in the squad, which is to be expected at this phase of qualifying. Like those selections have been made in the past, and now we're like ironing things down for the big game. I did think like couple unlucky to miss out, as would be the case when you have to make cuts. Like Matt Gould, I thought was maybe the biggest surprise there as the third goalkeeper, ahead of guys like Michael Val, Jamie Searle, Nick Sanev, who hasn't really been in contention for a while, Max Crocombe. It's the least, like, third goalkeeper, the least consequential spot in any squad, but he's the only one of those guys that I listed who's uncapped, so I was a little bit surprised that he was there. But Ben Waine as well, getting in ahead of Andre De Jong. ADJ not in the squad. I think he's probably suffered from just Wayne being in some good form, and also the rise of Alex Grieve coming out of nowhere. But I'd say De Jong's probably the unluckiest not to be there. Some other players who have played under Hayes since the resurrection of the team last October who aren't there: Cam Howison, Nico Boxall, Dalton Wilkins, Ben Old, Kelvin Carlo, along with guys like Val, ADJ, Searle, Singh. But overall, I think this is like the depth of the squad. You can expect a pretty stable 11 regardless. Remember, Sarpreet Singh didn't go to the Oceania qualifiers, wasn't at the Olympics, so they have played like without him in big games before. No need to panic. The lads are ready, the lads are ready. They've been building towards this, and here we go.
Aotearoa Kiwis have been building towards a game since the back end of 2019. And deep in my Mangroves wildcard, I've whipped up an Aotearoa Kiwis team that I quite like. Now, first selection is Shans Nickel Clockstad at fullback, which wasn't the case a few weeks ago. But he has kind of found some vintage C&K form, which is good to see. He's my fullback. My wingers are Ken Mamalo and Bailey Simonson. My centers are Joey Manu and Peta Hiku. Peta Hiku benefiting from a really strong Cowboys run right now. Jerome Hughes is out injured, but I still want him number 7. Like we're getting him the stem cell surgery, we're getting him some Aotearoa vitamins, whatever he needs to be healthy for our game. And I'm partnering Jerome Hughes with Dylan Brown. Really loving the footy out of Dylan Brown. The forward pack. This really gets me excited. Jesse Bromwich, James Fisher-Harris, Jared Waidea-Hargreaves are my middle forwards. Isaiah Papali'i and Kenny Bromwich are my edge forwards. Brandon Smith, King of the North. He is... No, Bran wasn't the King of the North. He was stuck in the old tree.
He was
getting eaten by the tree. So shout out, Bran. Brandon Smith is my starting hooker, obviously. And the bench. I'm chucking Tamare Martin on my bench. Versatile, utility, could play a bit of hooker, can cover some backline, can cover some halves. I'm really liking his footy at the Broncos right now. Classy operator. Love his mahi. And then the forwards. Nelson Asofa-Solomona, Joseph Tapine, and Josh Alawai are my bench forwards for the Aotearoa Kiwis. And I think that is pretty cool. Pretty cool Aotearoa Kiwis team. But I'll add a little bonus wrinkle here, wildcard. No Sean Johnson in my team. And I was thinking about Sean Johnson and a couple other veteran halves who made moves over the offseason. Chad Townsend to the Cowboys, Adam Reynolds to the Broncos. Sean Johnson comes back to the Warriors. He's not in the same realm as Adam Reynolds or Chad Townsend right now. So hopefully I say that because that's just an interesting way to view Sean Johnson. Some veteran halves who move clubs. They're all in a similar position. They're all kind of searching to add some good footy to the back end of their careers. Sean Johnson's not in the same realm as Adam Reynolds or Chad Townsend right now. But as we know, shout out Sean Johnson. He loves the Warriors, and that's cool. Question time here, Wildcard. You've got 2 questions, and you've got a Warriors question. So give me the Warriors question fresh off that Sean Johnson nugget.
Yeah, nice and timely segue. It's just, yeah, so to set just a nice quick scene, I can't remember when it was. It would have been Saturday, wasn't it? The Warriors were playing against the Rabbitohs. They started absolutely atrociously. I had just watched Steven Adams get eliminated. I think this is the right timeline. I just watched Steven Adams get eliminated from the NBA, not finals, but playoffs. Started watching the Warriors. Would later watch the Phoenix get eliminated later that evening as well. And then at one point, the Dragons also lost. As you know, just a rough day for teams that I support. And I was sitting there watching the Warriors in between this, and they were getting thrashed in the first half. And I was like, I've just watched a basketball game. I'm probably going to watch another NRL game, which is also not going to be a very high quality NRL game after this. I've got a Phoenix game to watch in the evening. I need at least some weekend here. So I just left. I didn't watch the second half, and then was surprised to see that the Warriors ended up only losing by 2 points. So my question is, what happened? What did I miss? What changed? How did that game get so close? And I guess, is that a positive that they closed it up as much, or is it more like one of those, yeah, but they started so bad it was, garbage timey, or I don't know, like what happened?
I think it's just 2 even teams, and the second half, like the footy deities, they just have a way of evening things out. And they were 2 relatively even teams. Rabbitohs fell off in the second half. Warriors got closer to their best, whereas in the first half, Rabbitohs were near their best and the Warriors were near their worst. So you've got 2 volatile teams showcasing their volatility in one game of footy and game of 2 halves, all that type of shit. When the Warriors were good, to your question, a lot of dummy half running. And that's probably a key thing to keep an eye on with the Warriors moving forward, because they would storm downfield just through dummy half running. And it's like, I don't know, rugby league's a pretty simple game when you think about it. It's a lot of effort, and there's some key areas that are low-hanging fruit to get productive footy during a game. And dummy half running is one of them, especially your outside backs, especially dudes who are fast like Reece Walsh, get into dummy half and truck forward. Tohu Harris also came on around the 25-minute mark. And, of course, he couldn't help the Warriors in the first half, but a lot of his stuff in the second half and around that middle phase of the game was impressive. Just his running, everything Tohu Harris does. He had a nice short ball. He had a 15-meter run where he stood in the tackle and played the ball, and then there was a dummy half run after that. And I'm just still amazed at Tohu Harris's excellence, and a couple more games like that, and I'm chucking Tohu Harris in that Aotearoa Kiwis team, and I'd probably have Tohu Harris chuck him in ahead of Josh Alawai at his best. But there was a yarn like last year where Tohu Harris didn't want to play for Aotearoa anymore. Like he had retired from international footy or something like that. So he's out of the equation right now, but at his best, he is definitely an Aotearoa Kiwis top 17 player. And some of those signs were on display during that game. And funnily enough, him on the field kind of gave the Warriors a certain level of solidarity. My question to you, Wildcard. Now that Stephen Adams is finished, now that Wellington Phoenix is finished and a couple of those things are wrapped up, what's your favorite Aotearoa sporting thing right now that you're thinking about, looking forward to, just top of mind, not in terms of reflecting on the Phoenix or Stephen Adams, forget that shit. What are you buzzing about right now coming up?
That is an extremely easy question to answer. That would be the All Whites versus Costa Rica. You've got like, I mean, I kind of detailed it earlier. Like you've got the last spot up for grabs at the FIFA World Cup. All Whites have only ever made it twice before. You've got all these storylines within there about this, like, this generational wave of guys who are still all like age 23 and younger, who are going to be a core part of that team. You got guys like Chris Wood, Tommy Smith, Winston Reid, especially Winston Reid. In the way that this would bookend his career, but also those other guys, because they were at the Costa Barbarouses. Actually, no, that's another one. Those three guys going to a World Cup, having been there in 2010, Costa Barbarouses potentially going to a World Cup, having not been selected in 2010, having been like the most unlucky guy not to have been picked. Just so many storylines. Plus, like it's the Football World Cup. It's the biggest competition outside of maybe the Olympics that there is on planet Earth, always trying to qualify for it, and they've got the best chance that they've had since 2010 when they last made it. Like this is as big as it gets, as far as I can see. And I'm, 3-4 weeks, and the countdown is on. The squad's been named. It's got a friendly game coming up against Peru in a couple weeks' time. Like it's big. You've got Costa Rica have got to play some games beforehand as well, and some CONCACAF stuff. So good scouting opportunities there. I've already written a big scouting thing on Costa Rica, but I want to watch them play some more because there's a couple of things I want to figure out about their like backline and how that operates. But absolutely, by far the most exciting thing right now on the cards, All Whites versus Costa Rica World Cup playoff. Question back in return, because I have another one here. This is relatively simple. Blackcaps play in England, and I think the first warm-up game starts on Friday, but they're start of next month is the first test of 3 in England against Brendan McCullum's English Test cricket team. I want to know who you think is going to be, or who your prediction is for the top Blackcaps run scorer in the series. Because looking at that team, I think there's I think there's at least 5 good candidates for this thing. I want to know who you think it will be.
As you said, Will Young, 3 centuries in county cricket in less than 2 seasons. That's pretty good. Tom Latham, world-class opener. Kane Williamson, Aotearoa's best batter ever. Devon Conway, double banger on debut at Lords. Daryl Mitchell might bat 5 if Henry Nichols is unavailable. Henry Nichols is also pretty good at batting. I'm going with Tom Blundell. No, that's a joke. Sorry. Shout out Tom Blundell.
You could have said Tim Southey or something. Or...
No. Tom Blundell will get some runs down the order. I wouldn't if you're asking me to bet on this, I wouldn't make this pick because you're going to England. You don't necessarily roll with the opening batters to score the most runs because you're coming up against the Duke Ball. You're coming up against Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, those type of characters who are all very good at bowling and dismissing opening batters. But I can't. As we move forward with life, wildcard, as we grow and as we ascend to higher spiritual realms, you trust your intuition, you feel your intuition, you tap in with your intuition. And my intuition is telling me Tom Latham, best opener in the world. And he is going to have a fantastic time in England. And he is going to take a big, giant poo on all England's opening batters in the test team and in county cricket, because big Tommy Latham is the best opener in the world. Musical jam here to finish with wildcard. Just want to give a shout out to Aotearoa artist Thea, who also goes by Tikahu with her Te Reo jams. And these are, so Tikahu is spelled T-E-C-K-A-A-H-U. And I call this Raise Your Mana music because it's just beautiful waiata, and listening to it, all that happens is your mana is raised. So why would you not want to listen to it if you're from Aotearoa, or if you're not from Aotearoa and you're trying to get that vibe, you're trying to get that energy from Aotearoa, Māori order, raise your mana, go on YouTube and just type in Tikahu and you'll get some Raise Your Mana music. If you're doing a bit of obscure hip-hop from the global scene, check out Medhane, M-E-D-H-A-N-E. He's got a new song, Ripped My Kasubis, which is typical Medhane, New Yorkie avant-garde music as well. So a bit of variety there with the variety show Musical Jam Wildcard. What are you listening to?
Yeah, we'll keep that keep the Kiwi theme going with Marlon Williams's new track. Good tune, great tune, great video. I'm hoping that this is the start of like a nice rollout with an album coming later on, but at the moment it's just a single. He's about due another classic 10 out of 10 album, I would imagine. Kikagaku Moyo's got a new album, Japanese jam band. I think it's their last one. They've said they're splitting up after this. I love that band. They just play sort of a cross between like psychedelic rock and sort of like Japanesey folk stuff. And they just started off like busking on the streets and just got super good because they just played a million times. So that's supposedly their last album. So I will see like maybe some of the dudes will go in different directions afterwards. Sharon Van Etten's got a new one, Melody's Echo Chamber, another one. Few albums there that I've definitely been enjoying. And I also feel obliged to ask you about first impressions of the Kendrick Lamar album. Anything you'd want to chuck out there on that one?
Haven't listened to it other than the videos, the My Heart video and the N95 video. I'm just in the zone where I've got the roots reggae dub instrumentals on in the background. Like that's just kind of my zone. Yeah. I'll definitely tap into the Kendrick stuff, but I don't know, just follow your intuition. And all I'm listening to right now is my go-to background music, roots reggae dub. There's so many mixes and all that good shit on the platforms, specifically YouTube. Just search roots reggae dub and you'll just be taken to a whole nother realm of musical joy. Drop a minute on the Kendrick Lamar album, if you please.
I listened to it fairly soon after it came out, and I haven't listened to it again. It's not out of like not wanting to. It's just more about like I found it to be harrowing is a word that springs to mind. Like it's not an easy album. It's quite a difficult album. He's out there trying to challenge people. He's not just serving up bangers that'll make you feel good. He's like addressing some stuff, and it's pretty rough in a few places, and that makes it hard to say. But I also like, I'm someone who watches a lot of movies that aren't necessarily like, I don't like to watch I don't watch the big like Marvel fan service type stuff. I will watch movies that are difficult and troublesome in places, and it's a little bit hard to describe without getting into like a 30-minute essay on like the nature of art and stuff. But I just think when you can make people feel stuff, even if it's something that's uncomfortable, if you can inspire any kind of emotion in a listener or a viewer or a reader or whatever, you're doing your job as an artist. And I think Kendrick Lamar's taken a pretty crazy step here where it's just like, he could just serve up a 12-track album of just like fun tunes, that he knows are going to go like top of the charts and be big successful and everything like this. He's done something different and something extremely challenging and something that kind of goes against the grain of what a lot of other artists, even in his like exalted position, would be doing right now. So for sure, absolutely respect that as a creative decision. Difficult album in a few places there, and I will get through it. I don't really want to speak too much on it on the album as a piece when I've only heard it once. You know what I mean? But I feel like I have to be in the right mindset to go at it again. But I will at some point. I'll come back around to it because I think there's a lot to it. It's just harrowing is the word that springs to mind.
Big it up to the Niche Cache. Big it up to yourself for listening and supporting the Niche Cache. And big it up Aotearoa sport, Aotearoa music, the land of Aotearoa, and the oceans around Aotearoa as well. We do love a bit of oceanic flavor to our Aotearoa landscape. Big it up. Stay beautiful. Kia kaha. Church.